right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on the Dutch business opportunities in the sustainable energy sector in Colombia. My name is Nico Smit, and I work as a business development manager at RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. And I'm happy that you joined us today because I think it will be an interesting afternoon with a lot of interesting content, especially because Colombia is the second biggest market when it comes down to the generating sustainable energy in South America. Furthermore, and more important, I think, Colombia has a big ambition and it wants to go from 50 megawatts of installed capacity to 2,250 megawatts by 2022. So that's quite an ambition. And also at the end of last year, they already invested a total of $2.2 billion US dollars, which was allocated to 8 projects, of which 5 wind and 3 solar. We organized this webinar today because the Dutch Embassy in Bogota and the Holland House, they conducted a study to map the opportunities in this sector for Dutch businesses. And we'll start the session with a presentation by Martijn Groen and Felipe Guyton, who will jointly present the outcome of this study. Martijn is a diplomat at the Dutch Embassy in Bogota, responsible for economic affairs, and he arrived only a couple of weeks ago, so he's still very fresh and new to the job. However, he has quite some experience and a vast experience in circular economy and trade promotion, and he also worked at the embassy in Iraq, so he has the diplomatic experience. Felipe Guyton is a senior consultant at the Dutch Colombian Chamber of Commerce, also known as the Holland House, Colombia, and he was in charge of doing the desk and field research of the study. And previously, Felipe, he worked at Colombia, Invest in Bogota, and various business intelligence firms. After the presentation, Ruud Kraakman will take over, and Ruud is the owner and founder of Maru Systems Group, which is based in the Netherlands and was founded in 2007. And it started off by providing technical installation services like solar panel installations. And by 2014, Ruud started with the development of hybrid generators. And Maru has now their own hybrid generator rental fleet. And a large production facility and research and production development company called Maru Innovations. And Ruud will share with us his experiences of doing business in Colombia, which I think is very relevant and value for a lot of you. After Ruud, I will take over and give a short presentation on what RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, has to offer to companies, Dutch companies who want to do business abroad, and I'll touch upon the programs, subsidies, and instruments that we offer. And at the end of the webinar, we'll have time for questions. So I would like to ask you to post your questions in the Q&A, and also please indicate to whom you're addressing your question, and then we'll try to address them all at the end of the session. For now, let us not wait any longer. I would like to give the floor to Martijn. Martijn, please take it away.
Thank you, Nico, and a warm welcome from the Dutch Embassy. I'm here together with Felipe from Holland House. Greetings from Colombia. Felipe and I will do the presentation of the report. We will be focusing mostly on the opportunities for the Dutch businesses. And for the next 25 minutes, we will take you through the chapters. We've made a presentation for you, so we'll put it on the screen now. And we will have 9 chapters. And the chapters follow largely the chapters of the report, which will be available in a few days on the website of RVO. Firstly, we will talk about Colombia in a nutshell. Then we go to the global context of renewable energy. Then we go to the regional context, and slowly we go to Colombia. And then we'll do a SWOT analysis of the renewable energy opportunities. But we'll also get into the COVID situation, financing situation for projects, and lastly, tips and conclusion. So Felipe will do the first part of the presentation. I will take over later.
Thank you, Martin, for the introduction. Hopefully everybody can see the presentation now. So basically, just to begin, I want to give you a couple of key facts on Colombia. Colombia is a country of 50 million approximate people back in 2019, with Bogota, its capital city, as the largest city, with almost 8 million in population. We have a total exports of 39.5 billion, total FDI of around 14.5 billion, and we are currently ranked 67th in doing business in the world. Colombian imports from the Netherlands are currently 256 million. This represents a 4.6 decrease between 2018 and 19. However, it is important to mention that there have been imports with important growth between the same period, such as iron and steel, vehicles, paper and paperboard, pharmaceuticals, chemical products, and waste from the food industries and prepared animal fodder, which will be interesting later on for the biomass sector. In terms of global renewable energy, where we stand currently, we have Asia leading the renewable energy installed capacity worldwide with around 44.57%. This is also seen in electricity generation. Both are followed by Europe, North America, and then South America. Jumping into the types of technologies for installed capacity in terms of renewable energy, we can find that hydroelectric is still the biggest technology used worldwide, followed by wind, onshore, and solar photovoltaic. And then we have a couple of other important technologies such as bioenergy and hydroelectric mixed plants. Worldwide, in terms of ranking, we have China leading by a vast majority. And then the next three countries on the list are Brazil, United States, and Canada, which is important because the three countries are located in the Americas, and they're the only three countries of the Americas in the top 10, as you can see. In a more regional context, we have in Latin America, different types of electricity market structures. As you can see, there's a wholesale market leading the way in Latin America. But of course, we have a vertically integrated regulated monopoly in countries like Paraguay, Venezuela, and Panama. And then a special wholesale market plus retail competition in Colombia. Some key factors to mention about Latin America: between 2010 and 2015, investment in power generation reached almost $120 billion, including 38 billion for large-scale hydropower. There is Latin America hosts some of the most dynamic renewable energy markets in the world. As I said, it's highly dependent on hydropower, but there's been an interesting shift into solar and wind, as we were going to see later on in the presentation. And these countries in Latin America are continuing to begin to address diversification efforts in electricity systems. So you can see big countries like Brazil and Mexico leading the way, but also countries like Colombia closely following. As you can see, as I was mentioning, Brazil leads the way in terms of renewable energy generation in South America, with 59% of the total generated. In this map, you will see these numbers represent only, account for only solar, wind, and biomass sources of energy, no hydroelectric, because in Colombia, the number would spike to almost 60% if hydroelectric was included. As Nico was mentioning at the beginning, it's interesting to see that this 8% in Colombia, because back in 2018, Colombia only accounted for 50 megawatts of power generated by renewable energy, but this is going to be jumping to 2,250 or more by 2022, given the most recent auction that we're going to explain later on. If we jump into Colombia, as you can see, we continue to be a very oil-dependent country in terms of energy supply, followed by natural gas. But then we have hydroelectric, biofuels and waste, coal, and wind and solar, respectively. As you can see, hydroelectric and biofuels still account for the largest portion of the energy supply in terms of renewables, and wind and solar still lags behind. These figures, however, do not include the 2,250 megawatts expected by 2022. And if we eliminate hydroelectric from the equation, we can see that biofuels account for more than 99% of the total energy supply in Colombia for the moment. So as here you can see the aggregate demand by the regions. The region that currently is demanding most of the energy in Colombia is the Caribbean region, which is highlighted in green on the right, followed by the central region, which you can see in red. And then you have the regions of Antioquia and Valle del Cauca, which are in yellow on the right. And then it's the complete west coast of Colombia, western coast of Colombia. So here are some of the examples of the power generation capacity for renewable energies in the different regions. Later on, we're going to show you both the power and the wind map for the region, so you can see why, besides hydroelectric being the largest generation capacity in the country, you can see that solar and wind have good opportunities as well. So as I was mentioning here, Colombia, I mean, in general, has a good opportunity for photovoltaic opportunities. Normally, they're close to the big cities, like you can see Bogota, Medellin, and the Caribbean coast with most of the kilowatts per hour, with Santa Marta, Barranquilla, and Cartagena leading the way. However, in the, let's say, the eastern part of Colombia, you can see all of this non-interconnected zone in orange and yellow, which hosts a lot of opportunities for microgrids or to access communities that are not connected to the national grid. So that's also an important source of opportunities in the country. If we jump to wind power, although most parts of Colombia are not suited for wind power, as you can see, there are some clusters near Casanare or Huila, but most of it's in the Caribbean region with La Guajira, Atlántico, Magdalena, and Bolívar states. Yeah. If we jump into key stakeholders, I mean, there are many to mention. You can address the full presentation, the study later on, but I would like to focus on three. First, UPME, which basically is the one in charge of all the projects, the development of projects, and also supports the Ministry of Mines and Energy in terms of policy and regulation. So anything that you want to move forward with a project has to go through UPME. So it's very important to have them in mind. Of course, the Ministry of Mines and Energy, just being the public entity of national character in charge of anything that has to do with renewable and non-renewable natural resources. And finally, I would like to also focus on SER Colombia, which is a private nonprofit entity that hosts more than 67 companies, both local and international, in terms of renewable energies. I personally had an opportunity to meet their president, and they're very eager to do business with companies from abroad as well. Some of the key companies in Colombia in terms of power generation and transmission, we have Empresas Públicas de Medellín, or EPM, ISA, Grupo Energía of Bogotá, Enel and Celsia, being these the biggest. Recently, we had Enel merge both Codensa and Emgesa companies, and combining these two companies, they now have a 25% share in the country, making them the leader in terms of market with 3.4 million clients in the country. I'm going to jump through over the cash flow because I think this is something that you have to look personally and because of time constraints. So jumping into Colombian renewable technology imports, we can see that in solar, on one side, we have most of the imports coming from China with a 44% growth in the past 5 years, followed by Germany, then United States and Brazil, and Korea. As you can see, as I was mentioning before, China leads the way in terms of imports for Colombia or exports to Colombia. And when jumping into wind, we focused on types of turbines and parts thereof because it's hard to find specifically the product codes. But we can see that United States, Brazil, Switzerland, Mexico, and Canada are lead the way, mostly because of the proximity to these countries. But then we also have Switzerland in the list. In terms of the Netherlands exporting this technology around the world, we can see that most of it's exported to European countries. And we've seen, for example, exports in the Czech Republic grow 79% in the past 5 years, which is impressive. And then in terms of, again, wind turbines and similar products, we can see this, it doesn't appear here in the presentation, but the first country is Belgium. Then we see Singapore, Russia, China, and followed by Greece. In terms of renewable certifications in Colombia, well, we have the Renewable Energy Certificate, or REC, for its acronym in English. Basically, it's a title that is created when a renewable energy source produces more than one or more megawatts per hour. Here in Colombia, we have EPM, Empresas Públicas de Medellín, which I mentioned before, as the first generator and marketer in the country that passed the test to be able to issue these RECs each month to industries and businesses. And currently, as you can see in the presentation, Macro is one of the companies that holds these types of certificates. Just to finalize, I want to focus on the renewable auction. As I mentioned, we are jumping in 2019 or 2020, we're jumping from 50 megawatts per hour to 2,250 megawatts per hour in renewables, megawatts in general in renewables by 2022. This far exceeded the estimates of the government, which were 1,500 megawatts by the end of the 4-year period, which ends in 2022. And according to the Ministry of Mines, 8 projects were awarded, 5 in wind, 3 in solar, and the 8 contracts have a total of $2.2 billion in pricing. So currently we have 537 approved projects. This number is probably going to grow by 2020 this year. And Colombia, additionally, it's aiming to invest around $4.2 billion in 27 strategic renewable energy projects throughout the country. And here you can see quickly how the projects are distributed. So you can see solar and wind with the highest generation capacity and number of projects presented. But then again, we also have potential in bioenergy and small hydroelectric power stations throughout the country. Although geothermal only has 1 project presented, it's a type of project together with Tidal that have potential for future projects here in Colombia as well. So now I'm gonna give the word back to Martijn, which is going to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe. So now we get to the SWOT part of analysis of Colombia's renewable energy sector. And as you can see, for the strengths, we've analyzed that the capabilities for PV and wind solutions are the most viable in the country. But also, Colombia has a strong intention to diversify its electrical matrix. In terms of weaknesses, we see that there's still a lot of room to improve renewable energy contracts. Contracts should, for example, be dollarized, and also contracts could be more longer term instead of the 2 to 3 year term that they are now. Opportunities, we see biomass solutions as a great opportunity that have not reached its full potential. And the same goes for tidal and geothermal energy. And in terms of threats, we see that the pricing war is not the strongest asset of Dutch companies, and Chinese companies have a big advantage in this. And then also Dutch expertise in specific niches such as mobility, smart charging, hasn't picked up much yet in Colombia. Then we go to opportunities. Colombia is a very oil-dependent country, and even though Colombia is oil-driven, there's an intention to make the energy transition, and the current oil price doesn't stimulate oil infrastructure investments. So renewables are a great alternative to this energy difficulty, and they provide a great opportunity for economic growth. In terms of the opportunities, and we refer back to the report here, we've analyzed that solar, wind, and biomass are the main opportunities. Any additional futures are geothermal and tidal, because you might ask, are there not other opportunities? So the Ministry of Mines and Energy, they do see geothermal and tidal also as opportunities, but the thing is that there haven't been many projects been announced to UPME. So the key interest for now remains on wind, solar, wind, and biomass. So we'll go through these three opportunities. In terms of solar, why should Dutch companies focus in Colombian solar projects? Well, the Dutch have a great reputation and specialization here in Colombia when it comes to quality, reliability, international outlook, high-tech excellence. Netherlands has a lot of high-ranking stats that we're very proud of. And also the Netherlands have some niches that are not yet very much known in Colombia. I have to think about solar farms, where the Dutch companies are at the forefront of refining these technologies, but also if you think about urban development. Let me go to PV films. So the Netherlands has conducted promising research into ultra-thin PV films, which enable solar systems to be integrated, for example, into glass and other components of building materials. On this map, you can see that in red, the proposed solar projects are being displayed. This is just for you to know, for the companies to know that where there will be tenders, and just for you to have them on the radar and to showcase the size of the projects. So these are the projects that have been announced, and you can see there's some large projects. For example, the first one, Sowitech, 600 megawatts, and a bit further down, Sebas Tossel, 700 megawatts. So what and who could sell? On the right, we've displayed some logos of companies. These are not companies that we target per se, or that are active in Colombia, but they're examples of companies that could provide products to Colombia in the future, given their business. So they're not all 100% Dutch, but these are companies that could be providing products. And what are the products? Well, for example, solar panels, grid connection systems, floating systems, you can see them here, and solar heating as well. I refer back to the report for more information. Then we get to wind. So the Netherlands, in addition to construction of, for example, complete wind turbines, has a number of specialists in the area of blade design, installation technology, on-site maintenance, foundation design. Companies such as Herema, Mammoet, Van Oort, Ballas Nedam, also Grondmeijer, are noted for their expertise in foundation technology. Also, the Netherlands has excellent test facilities. Think about TNO, Technical University in Delft, German-Dutch wind tunnels company. And looking at the map in Colombia, and given the space availability and the high wind speeds at sea, we believe that offshore wind energy has a greater potential than onshore wind energy. In terms of engineering and consultancy, well, the Netherlands have experience. Think about the Egmond aan Zee projects and various ongoing offshore projects in our Dutch North Sea. And here again is the map. And you can see the proposed wind projects. You can see it's more in the Caribbean coast, as Felipe mentioned already. The current projects are mostly onshore at the moment, but offshore projects are also being taken into account. So what and who could sell? Again, the companies on the right could be interested, and you can see the products on the left. In terms of biogas, there could be interest of Dutch companies, for example, in circular agriculture, focusing on biogas. There's, of course, a lot of gas-related knowledge in the Netherlands. And in the report, you can find some examples of Dutch innovations by Dutch companies. Think about Siermak, but also the Natuurgas Overijssel partnership. And again, here's the map. An important thing to mention is that many opportunities in biogas are available, for example, poultry, pork, but also coffee, banana. And given the biodiversity of Colombia, there are so many options all over the country, and you can see that the proposed tenders are all over the country. So that's a big difference with the wind and solar possibilities. Who and what could sell? Again, on the right, some logos of Dutch companies, and on the left, the products that we think could be sold here. Proof of concept. So several Dutch companies with innovative and sometimes experimental technologies have seem to have shown some interest. And Maru Systems, Nico mentioned them already, will tell us a bit more in a bit. And some Dutch startups on the right and their technologies on the left. These are examples of startups that could be interested in participating. In terms of COVID, well, COVID is important here as well. There are over 1 million cases in Colombia and 30,000 deaths, and restrictions are in place. For example, Holland House and the Dutch embassy with the Dutch ambassador visited a Dutch factory recently. And you could see that regulations are strictly in place. But regardless of COVID, Colombia is still moving forward strongly with its strategic plan to renew energy sources. Some positive headlines, however, is that the country intends to exceed the goal of having at least 12% of the country's generation in 2022 coming from renewable energy sources. There are some tax incentives in place. You can find more information in the report. Also, about $70 million of projects were approved to finance 33 rural electrification projects. And the Nuevo Compromiso is a sort of a new deal. I could say we'll have more than $26 billion and will give priority to infrastructure, housing, and also technology. So that sounds promising. Then we get to the financing part. How could Dutch companies get financing? Well, although Dutch companies are normally capable of participating by themselves in projects throughout Colombia, as well as in the auctions, there are multiple institutions willing to assist companies through financing. And some examples here are mentioned. RVO and Nico will do some presentation about the programs that we have available, but also the Dutch Development Bank and P4G, which is a platform for public-private partnership, has some funding available. I'll move to the next slide. Some tips, lastly, that we think that are helpful. So if you have any doubt or you'd like some clarification, the Dutch Embassy and Holland House are very much helpful to provide you with more information. Holland House is focused on private sector, business to business, and the Dutch Embassy is more focused on government relations, business to government. There are the main points of entry for products in Colombia. There are the distributors in Colombia, and through them, you as a company can expand your business and sales network to reach new customers. UPME, Felipe mentioned this already. They are important if you want to receive information about upcoming auctions in solar, wind, biomass opportunities. Of course, the financing opportunities are available. Other Dutch companies can be reached to learn more about the current business environment. And then lastly, there's a website by RVO, Doing Business in Colombia, which has some great tips. I had a look at it last week and actually mentioned Felipe, I'm not sure if it's true, but you should always compliment a Colombian when you're being offered coffee, because it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
With also even more useful tips. Then the conclusion. Colombia has made a very big leap from 50 megawatt installed capacity to 2,500 megawatts, and this shows the commitment of the government and of the companies. So Colombia is very forward-looking. The second part is that there is also a big jump in projects being accepted, especially in solar and wind. Biomass, for the time being, is a bit more unknown, but there's also a big potential. The auction had some trouble in 2018, but finally it went through, and it shows also that Colombia is taking a step forward worth billions of dollars of investments. And lastly, the three sectors, as mentioned, wind, solar, and bio. Again, there are more opportunities, but these are the most concrete ones. And with that, I finish our presentation. I give the mic back to Nico. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martijn, and also Felipe, for your presentation. I think it's very interesting to get more background and context on the sector, and also to see, to get insight in the opportunities in the different niches. I think it's very interesting. I would like now to give the floor to Ruud, who can maybe share his experience with us on how to grasp these opportunities. Ruud, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Nico. Hello, everybody. I will share my screen with you. So I'm Ruud Kraakman. I'm responsible of the international business development within Maru Systems. We started investing the international markets because we have built up a market in Holland for hybrid generators, renewable energy, and energy storage. So a few years ago, we started with looking at more possibilities on the international market. First of all, I want to show you something. Where do we come from? What does Maru really do? We are a production company with our own R&D facility. We develop new types of energy storage, mobile energy solutions, and we are really a technical company. And want to expand on the off-grid energy market, renewable markets. We have a really big experience in solar installations in the European market. Where do we come from? 2007, we started with a small electrical installation company. And through the years, we've developed our own hybrid generator around 2013, 2014. And we started with renting out these units in Holland. Was difficult in 2017, 2018, because the market wasn't really ready in Holland. But we already started looking at the international market. We visited different countries. But the best experience that we had was Colombia. And we did an international research. So we looked at possibilities. Okay, how can somebody else look at the market, because we see opportunities. So we contacted the Erasmus Universiteit in Rotterdam, and they did a complete market analysis for us in 2017, 2018. And it was very interesting because we saw the opportunities not only in Colombia, but also use Colombia as a hub for the rest of South America, because we have seen a stable market in Colombia, big opportunities in Colombia itself, but also for right positioning because of the harbors, of the expansion to Panama, to other parts in South America. There were some difficulties with positioning our product itself as the problems with investment, and we weren't in the possibility of connected to the market with our products because the investment was too high at the moment in 2018, 2019. So we did a new, we went back to the Erasmus Universiteit and they did a new study and they finished it this year. Because of the COVID, it's a little bit delayed, but the market, as we saw in the presentation before this presentation, there are big opportunities. The market is better than 2018. As you can see here on the picture, this is what we are building in Holland, and the unit on the right is a hybrid generator with solar panels. And we have now seen in the new report from the Erasmus Universiteit that there's a big interest in the market in South America. What we have seen is that there are good investment opportunities at the moment, as they've mentioned before me. So what we are looking for is not looking at companies that want to invest in the units, in the product itself, but also you use the same rental opportunities that we've seen in Holland. So we want to rent out the units also in Colombia. And what we have done before this timeline, if you look at this timeline, for example, this is what you can see is the focusing on setting up the hub in Colombia, focusing on 2020 is we want to set up an own company in Colombia for the rental, and in 2021 we are going to because of the COVID, it's just a little bit delayed, but we're going to for the rental. 2018 and 2017, we've already been to Colombia to look at the market. We've been to exhibitions. So my advice for you is how can you approach the market and what could be, what's our experience? We've looked at different markets and what we have seen in Colombia because of the investment study, because of the exhibitions that we've been to, that's very, that Colombia is the most solid market for South America to start. And from that point on, you can go to different countries in South America, and people already are willing to invest in renewable. It's something different than 2018. So there are opportunities at the moment, after COVID is gone, of course. And what we have seen is, of what you can see here also, is how the people are reacting on our products in the market. We have tried to, because we are convinced that our product is capable of selling in the market to replace normal generators with our hybrid generators. But what does the people think? What does the companies really think about our product? So that's very, if you want to introduce a product in the market, everybody could be very convinced that there is a market, but it's still very difficult, of course, to really set up a market and really trying to look at the right customers. So we have, the Erasmus Universiteit did a great job by talking to different types of companies, different types of approaches for the market, and the reactions are very enthusiastic. So we are going to expand in Colombia. So that's what our so that's where we are standing at the moment.
Thank you very much, Ruud. I think it's an inspiring story that you were able to build up a market in this timeline, and thank you very much for the useful tips. And I also thought it was very nice to hear that your most positive experience was with Colombia, and interesting to see that you use Colombia as a hub. I think that is a good takeaway for the other participants.
Yeah, I can tell you a lot of, it's a very big story, of course, because we've been to several times to Colombia, so it's very difficult to put it in one small presentation.
Of course.
But yeah, the most valuable tip, I think, is let somebody else also look at the market. So you can convince yourself that there's a market and people want renewable and everybody's enthusiastic, but you let some, we have a great experience with the Erasmus Universiteit because they did a great job both times. And it's very valuable for us. So that would be my advice.
Great, thank you very much. All right, I'll start sharing my screen and go into the presentation of RVO and the instruments we have. In the meanwhile, I would like to ask you to post your questions in the Q&A. Let me see. You don't need to wait till the end, but we'll answer all your questions in the end. So please, if in the meanwhile you want to post your question, please go ahead. Let me see. All right, well, as I mentioned in the welcoming words, my name is Nico Smit and I work as a business development manager for South America at RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. And my job is, I'm kind of an extension of the economic diplomatic network in South America. So I work closely together with the embassies, consulates, and the Netherlands, the business support offices that we have. I support them in promoting trade and business in South America, and we do that by conducting market research, organizing webinars and seminars, participating in trade fairs, and organizing trade missions. Today, I want to tell you a bit more about the relevant instruments, subsidies, and programs for you. But before that, I want to go shortly into what kind of impact Corona had on our work. But before moving to that, I want to explain a bit what RVO does and who we are. Maybe not all of you are familiar with us yet. So RVO is not a ministry. We are an agency of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. And we implement activities that are commissioned by various ministries. So not only economic affairs, but also, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Agriculture. We also implement programs for the European Union and regional governments. And the Netherlands Enterprise Agency stimulates entrepreneurs in doing their international business. And we help them realize their international ambitions by providing funding, networks, know-how, and knowledge on how to comply with local laws and regulations. So Corona had a huge impact on all of us, I think. And for RVO, we were used to organize a lot of events, gatherings physically, so live together. And we had to rethink the way we were doing things. And we started off by creating frequently asked questions, web pages about Corona, because a lot of entrepreneurs approached us and asked us about the Corona crisis situation abroad. Next to that, we put an extra emphasis on mapping opportunities in all the markets that we work in. And we started to boost our digital services. So now on a weekly basis, we provide webinars, digital trade missions, and online trade fairs, or the participation in the online trade fairs. And the expectation is that we'll be 100% digital, at least until the end of 2020. But I personally expect it to be prolonged, especially in the Q1 of 2021. We also decided to extend certain subsidies, especially to those projects that were affected by Corona or by the crisis due to Corona, and we developed some new instruments. Looking at the trade shows and missions, we only participate in a digital manner in trade shows this year, and as of next year, we will slowly start participating physically again. Before the crisis, we committed certain square meters or pavilions to certain trade fairs, and those trade fairs that were postponed to next year, we RVO decided that we continue the commitment that we already made. And with regards to the digital or the missions, those will all be digital in 2020. I expect the first part of 2021 still digital, and if we start up with physical meetings or missions, sorry, it will only be in relatively small groups, so no big delegations as we were used to. So looking into the RVO instruments and programs and subsidies, the business partner scan is one of the most popular ones. Hereby we provide a list of potential business partners that can be clients, agents, distributors, production partners, and we provide this list in close collaboration with the local embassies, consulates, and business support offices that we have. And you can get such a list with or without a personal introduction. A program that we created for businesses or companies that start to do business internationally is called the Starters in International Business, whereby we provide vouchers for various activities, and these vouchers are like subsidies or cashbacks, if you will, for different activities. Like we have the coaching vouchers if you want individual guidance on a strategic action plan, or market entry vouchers if you are hiring a consultant to get guidance on how to enter a certain market. We also have vouchers for trade fair participation and the participation in missions. So if it's the first time that you're joining such a mission or a trade show, they can get a discount. And also there's vouchers for if you need fiscal or legal support. What's new is the Kickstart Voucher, and this voucher differs from the other vouchers in the fact that it's meant for businesses that are already active internationally. So it's a voucher that we created in the light of the Corona crisis, and you can get up to 2,500 euro or 80% of the cost of a consultant or advisor coverage, and it's meant to renew your marketing plan or develop a new business model or develop an alternative supply chain. Then we have the DHI or DHI, which consists of 3 components, and the first, the D, stands for demonstration projects. And Ruud showed some nice pictures of a demonstration project that he got subsidized. You can get up to 200,000 euro of subsidy or 50% of the costs. It's meant to demonstrate that your technology or product or service is effective and cost efficient in a local context. The H stands for haalbaarheidsstudie or feasibility study. And for those feasibility studies, we have up to a max of 100,000 euro of subsidy or 50% of the costs. And it's meant to demonstrate that your product or service is technically and financially feasible for your customer. The I stands for investment preparation studies, for which you can get a subsidy up to 100,000 euro or 50% of the costs. We also have a fund called the Dutch Good Growth Fund. It's a fund meant for companies that wish to import, export, or invest in a foreign country. So we provide loans, guarantees, export financing in those cases that commercial banks usually find it too risky, and in many cases they find it too risky because of the profile of the country you want to do business with. We can provide up to 50 million in financial support for each project, and we have insurances that cover up to 30 million. We also provide pavilions at trade shows. So we have the Netherlands branded pavilions where companies have their individual stands. And at the newer or more unknown trade shows, let's say, we can also provide a SME lounge or network lounge, which is more a common area or a general area where you can organize matchmaking activities and other promotion activities. Also, these lounges are all branded in the Netherlands style. Branch organizations can apply for a subsidy of now it's 35,000 euros, so that was increased in the last months, or 60% of the cost of such a lounge, with the requirement that a minimum of 10 companies are participating. Finally, we have a program which is called Partner for International Business, which is a program that's focusing on a long-term public-private partnership. And the aim is to position a cluster of companies and knowledge institutes in a foreign market. And there we can provide up to 350,000 euros of funding for a period of 2 to 3 years. And we can fund activities like seminars, missions, knowledge to knowledge, or government to government activities, but also marketing. And it's really a collaboration, a partnership between the public and the private sector. So also from the private sector, we ask that they contribute with regards to the content, but also financially to fund the cluster coordinator and to contribute to the missions and seminars. So it's really a public-private partnership. If you want to have more information about RVO or the subsidies that we provide, I think for those that are participating in this webinar, it's good to go to the Colombia country page, and there you'll find a subsidy guideline, let's say, where you can see which subsidies apply to Colombia, but at the same time you can see which business opportunities there are. Also, if you have any questions with regards to the instruments or programs or subsidies, you can always shoot me an email or give me a call. I'm always willing and able to help you out. So that was the end of my presentation. And I think we'll go to the Q&A now. I saw there was one question and it got answered by Ruud already. But perhaps Felipe, you or Martijn, you can also give your opinion with regards to this this question. The question was from Kees de Glopper, and he says, "Thank you, very interesting presentation. How do you see renewable energy growing for private businesses in the SME segment?" So perhaps Felipe, you can further elaborate on that, taking into account what Ruud already mentioned.
Absolutely, thank you, Nico. Yes, I do agree with Ruud in his initial answer of having. Being a local here in Colombia definitely helps because companies see that you are fully interested, that you're serious about doing business in Colombia. That's not only on paper, that you're actually already participating in the projects. Something that I would like to add as well is that since Colombia is barely beginning to work in these renewable energy projects, most of them are small projects between 1 megawatt and 20 megawatts. So a lot of SME companies can participate as well. It always depends on the products that are being offered. So if it's something that a small company wants to do in terms of I don't know, energy storage or photovoltaic panels, of course, there's an interest and there's room to participate. Maybe not yet in the auctions because big companies are participating there, but for sure we can have them participating in terms of selling their products. There's a lot of potential as well in residential and commercial projects for solar panels. So this is a company basically buying a couple of panels and then having them installed in their housing or their businesses per se, the company headquarters, etc. So that's also a good initial source of projects. Something that is also interesting, I didn't have time to go through it, but according to Decree 829 of 2020, there's going to be VAT tax exemption for some machinery and equipment, as well as exemption of import duties for certain types of machinery and equipment. So that could also be a source of saving revenue. Saving costs for SMEs trying to begin here in Colombia. The list, I don't have it with me right now, but you can find it if you search for the decree. And of course, if the product is not listed there, it could always be, the list can always be asked to be extended. So, and of course, besides this, there's always the financing that Nico was mentioning. So I think that the SME segment has a lot of opportunities here in Colombia.
Thank you very much, Felipe. And perhaps I want to stay with you. I see a question from Ruben Visser saying, thanks for the presentation. Potentially slightly off topic. Is there any recommendations, recommended starting point to learn more about the EV market in Colombia? That's an electric vehicle market.
Yes, there's definitely an interest for the EV market here in Colombia. However, again, we're beginning to see an interest in it. So we're not going to have the whole electric bus systems or big systems per se, but we're focusing now on let's say scooters, bicycles, motorcycles, etc. So I mean, there is an interest. I know that in the embassy, Natalia Piñeros has been working in that segment per se, and it has been showing a lot of interest in terms of renewable mobility. But for the time being, we haven't seen a lot of projects focusing on it.
Okay, thank you. And then Sander Destombe asked a question. I think that's directed to me. Thank you all for the interesting contribution. Is there a limit amount of Kickstart vouchers, either per country or per company? There is a limit per company, so it's one voucher per company. There's no limit per country. We do have like an overall budget for all the Kickstart vouchers, but it's not. We didn't reach the max yet, so there's room enough. And if there's a lot of requests from one country, that's not a problem. So I hope I answered your question with that, Sander. I see that you have a follow-up question, and if allowed, one more question for Felipe. Are there any opportunities worth mentioning on tidal wave or other ocean energy solutions?
After speaking with the ministry, I know for sure that there are going to be opportunities for tidal and geothermal in the future. However, since these are a little bit more complex solutions, they haven't been taken into account yet, and we haven't seen a lot of proposed ideas in terms of projects yet. However, I do see, let's say, in terms of tidal project, I mean, since we have access, we are the only country, we're one of the few countries in the world to have access to two oceans. So either in the Caribbean coast or in the Pacific coast, we're going to be having a lot of opportunities, specifically if the western coast of Colombia is one of the regions demanding most of the energy. I think that it's going to definitely be a good opportunity. But for the moment, I do not have any specific projects in mind that that are being worked upon.
Okay, thank you. I also saw that Jose Diaz asked for your email, and it was given in the it was typed down. So thank you for that. Yeah. So from the Q&A, I don't see any open questions anymore. I do have a question still for Martijn, which might be relevant for the participants. And the question is, what will be the first activity that you as an embassy are planning to capitalize on the conclusions of the studies?
Thank you. As far as I know, we don't have concrete activities planned yet, but it's a very demand-driven scheme that we have. So if we see there's a lot of potential and we can help somewhere else, then we can do this. I would have to check, but as far as I know, let me just get some notes here. Biomass, could you expand on that, perhaps?
Yeah, no, no, just to mention that we are going to also have a couple of events coming up in terms of biomass, mostly in pork and poultry. We can actually share afterwards the invitation with everybody once the event is on online, up and going. But we do know that we are going to be presenting, both the embassy and Holland House are going to be participating in a lot of events and inviting both Dutch and Colombian companies to participate, because we do see a lot of potential in this area.
All right, thank you very much. There's another question that came in from Elena. She says, "Hi, thanks for the presentation. What is the reason that geoenergy does not have so many projects?"
Geothermal projects?
Geoenergy. So I assume it's geothermal, but.
Okay, great. No, I mean, I think that it's two things. One, maybe the investment needed for this type of projects. Maybe sometimes they're too large, and I mean, some companies are not aware of these, can't participate per se. And the other one would be that right now in the renewable energy world, I mean, we're mostly talking about solar, wind, and biomass. So we still have to start, speaking up about geothermal opportunities. Maybe people just don't know about it, and that's why people, maybe when they receive these type of initiatives, they kind of like ignore them at the beginning. But I know for sure that the Ministry of Mines and Energy is working on changing that, the communication around these type of projects, because they do want to expand in that frontier. Of course, if you have any interest in participating with these projects, you can contact us and we contact UPME, or you can contact UPME directly, because they're always interested in receiving these type of projects. Maybe sometimes they don't do the marketing behind it because they're not receiving, this interest from abroad or locally, and that's why they haven't expanded on trying to market it. But for sure that if you send the project, the guidelines, they are definitely going to take an interest in it.
All right, great. I see no more questions coming in, so I think we can round up. Oh, wait, one more question. Let's make this the last question, which is posed by Natalia. Nico, just to add on to your question about the studies, as Martijn mentioned, we would like to organize punctual activities together with the Holland House and RVO, depending on the interest of the companies. And we are going to keep an eye on opportunities and development in Colombia to share with interested companies. So that's Natalia, who also works at the embassy. Thank you for your remark, Natalia. And with that, I would like to close the session and thank the speakers. Thank you very much for your contribution. And also I would like to thank the Holland House for the technical support. And I would like to thank, of course, the participants for sticking around till the end and posing the interesting questions. If you have any more additional questions, please feel free to email either the embassy or the Holland House or me, and we'll make sure that that you're directed to the right person or get your answer directly from us. So yeah, once again, thanks everybody, and enjoy your evening or afternoon.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.